Welcome back, everybody, to the Dabs podcast. Thank you so much for coming back. I appreciate you guys so much. You guys don't even know, especially since these videos sometimes are few and far between. Thank you so much for coming back to my channel, for visiting my video, and showing me love. I really appreciate y'all. Before I get started, please hit that like button, share and subscribe to all your friends, and let them know about this awesome podcast you have access to. Thank you so much ahead of time, my people. So today I want to talk about Latasha Harlins, and the reason I want to talk about Latasha is because to me, to my young years, she's always been kind of like an urban legend. For all of those Tupac aficionados out there, you've heard the name Latasha just like you heard the name Yusef Hawkins, just like you heard the name Kato, right? And certain people and certain names come up in Tupac's lyrics. And for me, as a young kid, it sparked a lot of interest for me. It sparked a lot of search for knowledge about what he was talking about, and peeling back the layers of the onion when it comes to Pac's lyrics. And I'm super glad that I caught this one right here. Latasha Harlins is somebody that he talks about in "Keep Your Head Up." It's somebody that he talks about and he references in Thug's Mansion. And he specifically talks about the shop owner on that one, um, which I'll reference at the end of this video. So I'm gonna start up on her life. Right? Who was she? Latasha Harlins was 15 years old when she got shot in 1991 by a store owner in LA. She was born January 1st, 1976 in St. Louis, Illinois, to Crystal Harlins and Sylvester Akoff Sr. She had one younger brother and one younger sister. Akoff Sr. was reportedly an abusive father and husband who used to beat their mom in front of the kids. In 1981, the family moved to LA when Latasha was 6 years old. Her mom, Crystal, was shot dead outside of an LA nightclub by her husband's new girlfriend, Cora Mae Anderson. At this time in the 1990s, there was a lot of tension already between the black community and the Korean immigrants who had been coming over since the 1970s, taking advantage of the low cost of real estate and the opportunity they saw to make businesses and make money in the area, which they did. At first, the community welcomed the Korean immigrants with open arms, but then tension started rising once, the black community felt like one, the Korean immigrants were not welcoming, were not allowing black residents to take up jobs in these stores in these storefronts, which created some resentment. Also, it was kind of ironic that in a city where there's a lot of low socioeconomic living, where people are struggling day to day, another group of people saw that and used it as an opportunity, which of course creates some kind of tension in the community because it's like you're not sharing with us, you're not sharing the wealth, the success, and you're in our neighborhood. But then on the Korean side, they were like, hey, we came out here with the same opportunities and less than you, and we made it happen. So they felt like they didn't owe anything, right? Because they worked hard for everything that they got. So there was a lot of tension out here in the streets between those two groups in the 90s, from the 70s to the 90s, really. So the store owner's name, Soonja Do. She was the owner of the Empire Liquor Store. That was on the corner of West 91st Street and South Figueroa in Vernon Vista in LA. She was behind the counter and her husband was in the van sleeping. So what happened? Well, what happened is shortly before 10 a.m. on Saturday, March 16th, Harlins entered the store. Latasha Harlins entered the store. Dew observed Harlins putting a bottle of orange juice in her backpack, and Dew concluded that Harlins was going to steal it. She didn't see the money that the young lady had on her other hand that she intended to pay the orange juice with. Dew claimed to have asked Harlins if she was going to pay for the juice, to which she responded, "What juice?" However, two eyewitnesses, 9-year-old Ismail Ali and 13-year-old Lakeisha Combs, disputed this and claimed that Dew called Harlins a bitch and accused her of trying to steal, to which they claimed Harlins told her, "No, I plan to pay for this orange juice." After speaking to the two eyewitnesses and watching the security video, Police concluded that Harlins was indeed planning to pay for the orange juice. The surveillance video also shows that Dew grabbed Harlins by her sweater, snatched her backpack, and then Harlan struck Dew two times in the face to try to free herself from the grasp. That's when the orange juice fell. And as Harlins handed back the orange juice back to Dew so she could pay for it, she turned to leave. The video shows this. And as soon as she turns, Dew shoots her in the back of the head. And she's killed instantly. Dew's husband heard the shots, ran in, and called 911 to report a attempted robbery. Sunja Dew testified in her own defense at a trial, and she said that she shot Harlins in self-defense. However, this was contradicted by not only the witnesses, but by the surveillance camera. On November 15, 1991, the jury found that Dew's decision to fire the gun was fully within her control, and she did it voluntarily. She was found guilty of voluntary manslaughter, which carries a maximum of 16 years in prison. And this is where it gets interesting. Trial Judge Joyce Carlin sentenced Dew to 5 years probation, 10-year suspended sentence, 400 hours of community service, and a measly $500 fine. He suggested that there were mitigating factors in the circumstances of Harlan's killing. He said that this wasn't a time for revenge and that Ms. Dew would have to suffer every day with her guilty conscience of what she had done. She said, did she act inappropriately? Yes. But was that reaction understandable? The judge also agreed it was. She said that Ms. Dew acted under extreme provocation and that her capacity to act rationally had been undermined by her experiences with past robberies. It's important to note that the verdict was appealed, but in 1992, the state upheld the decision 3-0, a week before the LA riots. In 1992, Latasha's siblings received $300,000 settlement from a civil suit that was brought against Sunja Dew. This case impacted Korean and Black relations tremendously. And it was just one of the cases that can be seen as a catalyst in sparking the LA riots in 1992. And in the 70s, like we were talking about, or like I was saying, in the 70s, when the Korean immigrants first started showing up to South Central, everything was all good. But as relations started to strain between both groups, Blacks who patronized Korean storefronts were called traitors. And this was in the newspaper in the 1980s, in 1984 to be exact. Um, a writer from the newspaper was telling the community that, hey, if you're Black and you patronize one of these Korean storefronts, you're a traitor, which also just furthers the divide between these two groups in the community. Further stereotypes that labeled Blacks as economically dependent versus Koreans who were seen as self-sufficient created strain. These rising tensions, Harlan's murder, and the beating of Rodney King sparked the LA riots in 1992. Both cases had video evidence of wrongdoing, both of them. For those of you guys who were too young, go look at the Rodney King tapes. The cops should have at least been held accountable. And that's the word that escapes these two cases. Accountability. There was none. No jail time for any of the perpetrators or anyone that was found guilty. In the Latasha Harlins case, she was found guilty. But in the Rodney King's case, they were all acquitted, which sent LA fuming. Many targets of the LA riots were Korean storefront stores, about 90% of them. The store that Latasha was killed in was looted and burned down in the riots, and it was never rebuilt again. Judge Carlin's ruling in the case prompted LA County District Attorney Ira Reiner at the time to effectively ban or bar Judge Carlin from trying cases by invoking a statute that said a judge could be removed from a case for any reason. The judge stayed on the bench until 1997 when she retired. Now, what do you think, right? What are some of the sentiments that this case invokes? I mean, to me, looking back at George Floyd, looking back at Tamir Rice, looking back at Breonna Taylor, looking back at Ahmaud Arbery, um, it's just really, really sad that it hasn't got better and that it seems like you can get away with shooting and killing minorities in this country. It's very,
Um,
I wanted to make sure I talked about Ahmaud Arbery since I mentioned him. And yeah, killing minorities in this country is something that until people start getting persecuted for it, it's going to continue to happen, and it's part of our history. Ahmaud Arbery is one of the few cases where justice was done. For those of you guys that know, this is a young man who was killed in Satilla Shores, February 23rd of 2020, after being chased, cornered, and shot by three people total, who were just super worried and scared that a black man was running through their neighborhood. These guys saw him running, said he must have done something, got in their pickup trucks, got their shotguns, then got in their pickup trucks. One neighbor followed and said, "Hey, do you guys need help? You guys got him?" Which is William Roddy Bryant. The three men: Greg McMichael, who was a father; Travis McMichael, the son; and Roddy Bryant, who was a neighbor. All three of them cornered this young man, and in 5 minutes took his life. In 5 minutes, they decided that whatever he had done, although they didn't know what it was worth his life. This young man didn't stop for them when they demanded, and that incensed them, right? How dare he not stop for us? How dare this young man want to protect himself and not stop for three men who are in pickup trucks, who are flying Confederate flags, yelling at him, "Stop or I'll blow your fucking head off." That's in the transcript. I encourage you to go into YouTube and look up the trial of Ahmaud Arbery and look up um, the testimony of Travis McMichael. The whole thing, from when direct cross examination and rehabilitation, which is what they call it when the defense attorney is trying to like salvage you from all the crap that the um, prosecutor just kicked your ass about. I mean, what these guys did to this young man is unbelievable. They were judge, jury, and executioner that day in 5 minutes. And it's crazy when you look at the testimony and you hear it, how much they didn't know. They didn't know what he had done. They didn't know who he was. They had a lot of assumptions. The prosecutor called it drive-with decisions, and that's exactly what it was. They decided then and there that they were going to take care of this black man who, up to their knowledge, all they really knew at that time, all they really knew is that he liked to go to an unsecured construction site that was a couple houses down from them and look at it. Never stole anything, never seen him on video with a backpack, a bag, or anything that enables someone to steal. And they tried to, spring this narrative that, oh, they were doing a citizen's arrest. Citizen's arrest, this guy's dangerous. Greg McMichael is quoted as telling people while the cops were on the scene, supposedly quarantining off as a crime scene, he told a neighbor that came up, "Hey, watch this guy. He ain't no shuffler. This guy is an asshole." While Ahmaud Arbery is on the street dying. Another thing that the video shows that the judge pointed out is as soon as they shot this man, they turned their back on him. He was still breathing, but they weren't there to render aid. They had did what they went there to do, was to shoot and kill him into submission. And it's such a relief to know that these three will never get out of prison. Not only were they tried and convicted in state court, they were also tried and convicted in federal court for federal hate crimes. And they will spend their entire life in a state prison. Right now, they're trying to fight to go to federal prison because federal prison is a little bit better than state prison. But the family keeps showing up in every court date, making sure that the judge knows that that's not what they believe is justice, and that these men should not be able to wiggle and weasel their way into better living conditions. They did not give Ahmaud Arbery a chance to be tried by a jury of his peers. They made the decision to do that on their own. And when you compare, I guess the only positive in comparing at least this case versus the Latasha Harlins case is that these perpetrators um, are in jail for life. But it's just too many that we can name where that's not the case and where the community has been left reeling and waiting for justice. And that's really why I wanted to bring up um, both these warriors, both of these champions of the situations that they were placed in. Latasha was a young girl, a kid. You all know what we're like at 15. We don't understand. We're kids. We don't understand the repercussions of certain decisions. You know, if Latasha was a little bit older, would she have known better? Who knows? But at the end of the day, who should have known better was a person with the gun. With the person who decided to put a gun on this young girl's head and shoot her after the altercation was done. It just goes to show how we're all human. It goes to show how 1 second of emotion can cause us to make a mistake and cause us to make a decision that will impact generations to come. Because I guarantee you the family of Latasha Harlins was impacted and is impacted even to this day. And as well as a shop owner. It's not like the shop owner was a killer. It's not like she was an evil person. I mean, if you look at it from her perspective, how many times did she get robbed? Who knows? Was she nervous? Did she make the wrong decision? Yes. But at the end of the day, like Pac said, in a Thug's Mansion, tell the lady in the liquor store that she's forgiven, that she can come home. And it's not like that's Pac's job, it's God's job. But I just think that it's a wonderful moment, especially because that song came out after he had died already. Um, to say that in 1992 we were hurt, right, by this action. But after he died, I think the song was released like, I don't know, I want to say 99. That's when we heard it. He said she's forgiven. But he recorded that before he died, which is just goosebumps. When I hear that, I feel like it just reminds me that God forgives those who ask for forgiveness and who really, really are sorry. Not here to judge, just here to tell a story. What do you guys think? Do you guys like the story? Do you have any comments? What do you guys think about these two cases, Latasha Harlins and Ahmaud Arbery? What are your comments? Once again, thank you so much for coming back to my channel. Thank you for listening to this video. Please share, like, subscribe to all your friends. And once again, thank you so much for coming back and showing love to the Dabs podcast.